Brodes Media.
Look, I think this is, I get it. I get where they're coming from. It's like you had to make this move, I guess, but I think they're pointing their fingers in the complete wrong direction. Doc coached his absolute balls off since at least early March, maybe even a little bit before that. And, the only reason we fell apart the way we did, well, maybe not the only reason, but it was your superstars. Joel Embiid and James Harden did not show up in Game 7. 3 of 11 and 5 of 18 is not going to do it. I don't care what your rotations look like, what your sets are going to be, or anything like that. If your superstars can't make their shots, no game plan you put out there is going to work. It's going to fall flat no matter what. And even Game 6, it just didn't work. So you want to talk about his Game 7 chokes, it shouldn't have even gone to a Game 7 because, again, your superstars didn't perform. So, I get what's happening, but, when are we going to learn that the coach is not going to make the difference with this roster? You look around all the really successful teams in this league that have been successful. They've swapped out coaches, but they've remained successful because of their rosters. I'm seeing people talk about Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse, he won his first year because of Kawhi Leonard.
Okay, I get the premise of what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I feel the same way. With that said, there is about a 10, 15-ish% of what a coach does provide. There is something. It's majority players and by a long shot, but whatever the percent is that a coach does provide, they need a new one of that. It just doesn't make sense to bring him back. He didn't even do poorly, but Monty Williams, Bud, all these guys, they're good coaches, and sometimes it's just time. Eric Spoelstra and Popovich, they don't grow on trees. They're the outlier. Every other franchise has to start moving it around. But you're right, it does come down to them making their shots. It is pretty wild to think that when they missed all those open looks in Game 6, and actually, I have some of my old notes right here. They shot 23% from 3. They didn't make their shots. And when the NBA breaks down their wide open looks, like the amount of spacing from the defender to the shooter and how they give you those numbers, that was just sickening to look at. I forget it off the top of my head, but we discussed it a bunch on the show. If a few of those just went in, the Anthony Melton, a couple of those shots fall, the entire city is flipped. I know it's not as simple as this, but if a couple wide open looks from NBA players fell wide open, massively wide open, that fall on 3 other nights, if it was their night, we're speaking about Doc and Embiid. Totally different. And the Sixers closed out a game at home. In a Game 6, didn't even need 7 games to beat the Boston Celtics. So it's pretty wild when you put it in that type of light.
Bro, I'm shocked. I'm shocked because the Sixers are treating symptoms and not the actual disease. For half a decade, they have had fundamental issues at the top of the organization, and I'm just afraid that they'll hire Dan Toney or someone like that is a second version of Houston, and we just end up like Houston in the future. But as far as Doc, he was definitely the issue, one of the issues, but we have a lack of leadership. We have a lack of direction within the organization to where we're only drafting centers and power forwards.
Yeah, see, I don't agree with bringing back the Sam Hinkie thing and comparing it to what they're doing right now. They're two completely different identities, and I don't know. I just don't think that that's even relatable at this point. So, the Houston team, when James Harden was with Houston, They were getting to the Western Conference Finals. And by the way, lost to Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors in a drawn-out series. Sometimes you lose sense of context. Going 7 in the Western Conference Finals and losing to one of the biggest dynasties this sport has seen over the last 20 years, we look at that as a failure. Remember, that's what I was saying with coaches and just how we absorb failure and success and what we deem valid and not okay. How far away were you at that point? And we don't want that, but we can't even get out of the second round right now. It's just odd to me. There's legitimacy in what you're saying. Doc was a part of this. He was up 3-2. Had a lead in the fourth quarter. Offense went silent. Stubborn in some areas. There's absolutely blame to go around. But even looking ahead, we're automatically shutting off things for fake reasons. Doesn't mean that they will absolutely succeed. I don't know if they will or not. But the narrative surrounding some of the possibilities, I think, is hitting an extreme. We'll take another here.
Yo, Brodes, this is Nate from SP from South Philly, man. Yo, this series destroyed me. These past 3 years have destroyed me as a Sixers fan. I think the only way we're making it out is if we get a hard-nosed vet. Wow, Joel Embiid is on the team. Is if we get a hard-nosed vet coach, because, man, we do have some sucker behind young boys. I'm not sure if cursing is allowed, but they really need somebody to get your emotions together so that they can respond to being punched in the nose. Because whenever we get punched in the nose, we lose.
Well, isn't that why they brought in P.J. Tucker? And he brought that, and then he also hit some threes. And he stunk all regular season, but he's going to be a playoff performer for you. I think it's highlighted on what he can do. And it matters, but he also has to make his shots. The fourth quarter, P.J. Tucker, if that's, the game 7, P.J. Tucker, if that's what we can find more, then, it's a huge improvement. It's professional basketball. I don't think you just need to get in their face and scream at you. There's nothing wrong with tough love. It works for Tibbs. The Knicks had a nice season. There's a cap, and that only lasts so long, but they had a nice season. I think Sam Cassell does have an edge to him. It's a different message when you're the head coach compared to the assistant coach. I know in hockey, traditionally, that's more of the player's guy, can lean back. Sam Cassell does seem to have some bite. But these are pro dudes. You can't just get in their grill and start yapping like they're high school guys that are afraid of you, or college guys. That's why I didn't even bring up the Jay Wright name. And I think this is a good spot to wrap things up. Jay Wright's not coming here. I can't automatically think that his style works at the pro game. Brad Stevens struggled. No, he helped build the Boston team that is now, and he's now up in the front office, but he had a very difficult time taming these personalities, and Tatum and Brown, and they had to do something different. They go to Udoka, now Joe Mazzulla. And by the way, Joe Mazzulla, I still don't think he's this wizard. He made a nice move to go to Robert Williams, which panned out. Jason Tatum. That's why the Celtics are where they're at. Jason Tatum in Game 7.